Today, let's talk about a story of two neighbors. One's economy is absolutely skyrocketing, and the other's is in a complete freefall. You see, Pakistan's massive economic crisis isn't just some distant headline. It's a critical warning. And for a nation like India, which is on this incredible high-speed growth path, it's a powerful look at just how quickly things can go wrong.
So you have to ask, right? How did two nations that started at pretty much the same point end up on such wildly different paths? To really get the lessons here, we first have to understand the sheer, stark contrast between where these two economies are today. I mean, it is truly night and day.
So on one side, you've got India's ascent. We're talking about the world's fastest growing large economy, a place that's attracting huge global investment. And then you look at Pakistan's crisis, crippling inflation, a literal mountain of debt, and foreign reserves that are just vanishing.
Okay, so how on earth did it get this bad? Well, the roots of this whole disaster actually go way back to 1994. This is when two critical and, let's be honest, really foolish policy mistakes were made that basically planted the seeds for the crisis we're seeing today.
All right, so fatal mistake number one. It was a policy designed to get investment into the power sector, called a take-or-pay contract. And look, it sounded great on paper, get private companies to come in and build power plants. But here's the kicker. The government promised to pay for 100% of the electricity they could produce, even if the country only needed, say, 50% of it.
And just look at the insane scale of that mistake today. Because of those old contracts, Pakistan now pays an estimated 8.8 billion, that's billion with a B, US dollars, every single year for electricity that is never even produced, let alone used. It's literally just lighting money on fire.
And then came mistake number two. This was another attempt to make foreign investors feel safe. They were worried about the value of the Pakistani rupee. So the government made a huge promise. Don't worry, they said, we'll pay you back in US dollars. In one move, they basically handed over control of their financial destiny to a currency they have zero control over.
And here is the catastrophic result of that promise. Back in 1994, one US dollar cost about 30 Pakistani rupees. Today, it's around 280. Just think about that for a second. A $10 million payment that used to be 30 crore rupees is now a staggering 280 crore. As their own currency got weaker, their debt, which was priced in dollars, just exploded.
But, these terrible financial mistakes were made so much worse by a political system that was just completely incapable of fixing them. This is really where we see a nasty, vicious cycle of instability and short-term thinking grab hold and refuse to let go. I mean, just let this fact sink in for a moment. It's truly stunning. Constant political chaos with prime ministers getting kicked out left and right meant no government could ever focus on the hard, long-term solutions. Survival, not strategy, became the only thing that mattered.
And what happens when you can't plan for the future? Well, you focus on surviving today. Leaders chose to hand out popular subsidies and freebies, what's often called Rev D culture, just to keep the public happy enough to stay in power, all while digging the country deeper and deeper into a debt hole it couldn't escape. So by 2013, the situation was absolutely dire. The country was facing daily blackouts. We're talking 12 to 14 hours a day with no power. Industries were shutting down. Pakistan was desperate, and that's exactly when China walked onto the scene, offering what looked like a lifeline.
This was the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, a massive $46 billion infrastructure project. On the surface, it looked like the ultimate answer to all of Pakistan's problems. But as it turned out, this helping hand came with some very sharp claws, and it was actually a meticulously laid debt trap.
Let's just break down this trap. First, China charged predatory interest rates of 5 to 6%. That's double or even triple what you'd normally see for a development loan. Second, they demanded that all the loan money had to be given to Chinese companies for the contracts, not Pakistani ones. So China was basically paying itself with Pakistan's debt. And third, they threw in harsh penalty clauses that would make the interest rates climb even higher if a single payment was missed. It was a rigged game from the start.
So what's the real-world result of all these terrible deals and decades of mismanagement? Well, it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. For the average person in Pakistan, the consequences have been nothing short of devastating.
Okay,
This slide right here is just staggering. Have a look. A full 60% of the government's entire income, it doesn't go to schools. It doesn't go to healthcare. It doesn't go to building the country. Nope. It is spent just paying the interest on its massive loans. That leaves almost nothing left to actually run the country.
And that debt to China has become a crushing, unbearable weight. $30 billion. That number is so huge, it's roughly equal to Pakistan's entire GDP for a year. I mean, how do you even begin to climb out from under a burden like that?
And this is what it all looks like on the ground. This is the real human cost. We're talking about a crisis where people's electricity bills are now often higher than their monthly rent. A crisis where food prices shot up 40 to 50% after the government had no choice but to cut subsidies. It's a country where people are literally struggling to afford to eat.
So what is the moral of this story for the rest of us? This isn't just about another country's misfortune. This is a powerful, powerful warning with very clear, very direct lessons for any developing nation that's on the rise.
The big takeaway from this whole thing really boils down to three absolutely critical principles. First, stable, smart, long-term policy has to win out over short-term political games. Every time. Second, you build a strong nation on a healthy, productive economy, not on a culture of freebies that you can't afford. And finally, and this is so important, self-reliance isn't just a nice slogan, it is a national survival strategy.
And that really leaves us with one final, very provocative thought. The story of Pakistan is a chilling reminder that bad policy, made worse by short-sighted politics, can absolutely unravel a nation. And it all comes down to the choices that citizens make. Are they demanding a sustainable future, or are they settling for a temporary handout? Because the answer to that question, well, it determines everything.